What if I told you a 4-year-old American boy with stage 4 cancer was deported from his own country without even being given a hearing? This isn't speculation, it isn't a rumor, it happened, and it happened under the leadership of DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. Instead of receiving treatment in a hospital, this child was forced onto a plane and flown away, and when lawmakers pressed Secretary Noem under oath for evidence to justify this decision, she had nothing. No documents, no proof, no explanation, just evasion and delay. The story began on April 24 when a woman in Louisiana was deported. With her went her 2 children, both U.S. citizens, a 7-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son. That little boy was battling stage 4 cancer. DHS officials later claimed the mother had consented to her children being removed.
To her U.S. citizen children being removed. What evidence do you have to support your claim that she did consent?
Congressman, we followed the same policies and procedures.
What evidence do you have? What evidence do you have?
We have documentation
what documentation do you have that mother consented?
We will get that to you, sir. I don't have it with me.
Please do. I understand it's hard to keep them all straight because you've deported multiple U.S. citizen children, but I'm asking specifically about the 4-year-old with cancer who was deported on April 25th. For the record, that family was also not given access to legal counsel before they were deported, even though their lawyer was in the same building at the time. I'm holding in my hands here a document called ICE Directive 11064, Interests of Non-Citizen Parents and Legal Guardians of Minor Children. This is the policy for how ICE agents should handle situations like this. It states unequivocally that parents and legal guardians should have the ability to make alternative care arrangements for minor children prior to their arrest or detention, and that ICE must afford parents the opportunity to consult with legal counsel. So, did the ICE agents working on this case who deported this 4-year-old with cancer of their own volition fail to follow ICE policies, or were they directed to by your office or anyone else in DHS leadership?
Sir, this mother chose to keep her child with her.
You have not produced any evidence to say so, but I'm asking again, have you directed DHS officers to ignore this policy?
It's very different than the previous administration. The previous administration
on March 15th, reclaiming my time, on March 15th, your department sent 3 airplanes to El Salvador. Those planes carried approximately 261 individuals who were imprisoned upon arrival. Did you personally review and approve the names of those 261 individuals before they were sent?
Sir, we have deported and sent home
did you review the names of those individuals?
And we have individuals that have the
Why won't you answer the question?
Within the Department of
Are you
Homeland
aware
Security.
of whether those 261 individuals were given the opportunity to speak with a lawyer or appear before a judge before they were put on those planes? Yes or no?
Sir, every single individual followed the exact same process.
They were not all given the opportunity to appear before a judge or speak with a lawyer. On April 7th, the Supreme Court ruled that detainees must have an opportunity to have a hearing before they are deported. Are you familiar with the April 7th Supreme Court ruling?
I am.
Can you assure us that in the future you will abide by that Supreme Court ruling to provide detainees with a hearing before they are deported?
Following all judges' orders, yes, sir.
I have a photograph here of André Hernandez Romero, a gay makeup artist from Venezuela. He fled Venezuela fearing gang violence because of his opposition to the Maduro dictatorship and his sexual orientation. He presented himself at a port of entry and requested asylum. His claim was found to be credible, and he was placed in detention to await a full hearing. But he never received a full hearing because you put him on one of those planes to El Salvador, where he still is today. Listen to me. He had no criminal record in the United States or in any other country. He did not even enter the country illegally. He presented at a port of entry. He tried to do it the legal way, and to this date, the only evidence your department has presented to justify his imprisonment is that he had 2 tattoos, one that said mom and one that said dad. Do you have any other evidence to present for why this individual should be locked up in El Salvador?
Sir, every case is used the same protocols and the same processes and inputs.
Do you have any evidence other than the tattoos that say mom or dad for why this individual should be locked up?
It's not just on tattoos. It's who they're affiliated with, their communication.
You have not presented any other evidence, nor has your department. Reclaiming my time, during your confirmation hearing, you said your focus would be on deporting immigrants who have been convicted of crimes and those who have received removal orders. But that is not what you have been doing. Instead, you have been deporting children with cancer, children
But the family's attorney and numerous public statements directly contradicted that claim. They said the mother never consented to anything. She wanted her children to remain safe in the United States where her son could access medical care. When Congressman Seth Magaziner demanded evidence to back up Noem's claim, she had nothing to show. No signed forms, no emails, no written record. She promised she would get it later. But in the moment, standing under oath, she couldn't produce a single scrap of documentation. Think about that. A child with cancer taken from his own country, and the department responsible for the decision had no evidence to justify it. But this wasn't just one isolated tragedy. It exposed a broader pattern. ICE has a clear policy known as Directive 11064. It states that parents and legal guardians should be given the chance to make alternative care arrangements for their children before being detained or deported. It also guarantees parents the opportunity to consult with their lawyers, yet in this case, the family's lawyer was literally in the same building. Agents still barred that lawyer from seeing the family. Instead of following their own rules, ICE chose speed and secrecy over due process. That wasn't the only law DHS ignored. On April 7, just weeks before the deportation of that cancer-stricken child, the Supreme Court ruled that detainees must be given a hearing before removal. The ruling was clear. It wasn't advisory, it was binding. Yet DHS ignored it. They deported people without hearings anyway. When Noem was asked whether she would abide by the ruling going forward, she dodged. She insisted her department was following all judges' orders. But the evidence told a different story. Families were still being deported without hearings, in direct violation of the court's ruling, and the problem stretched beyond one family or one child. On March 15, DHS sent 3 planes to El Salvador. On board were 261 deportees. Congressman Magaziner asked Noem whether she personally reviewed the names of those deported. Her answer was no, she hadn't looked at the list at all. Yet many of those individuals never got the chance to speak with a lawyer or appear before a judge. They were simply flown out of the country. Think about that. Planes filled with people, many of whom had never had a hearing, sent away without oversight. The Secretary of Homeland Security hadn't even reviewed who they were. Among them was a case that revealed just how broken the system had become. His name was Andre Hernandez Romero, a gay makeup artist from Venezuela. He had fled his home country fearing violence tied to both his opposition to the Maduro regime and his sexual orientation. He didn't sneak across the border. He presented himself legally at a port of entry and requested asylum. His claim was reviewed and found to be credible. He had no criminal record, no history of violence. He was exactly the kind of person America's asylum laws are supposed to protect. And yet DHS deported him. Their justification: 2 tattoos. One said Mom, the other said Dad. According to DHS, those tattoos were enough to label him a gang affiliate. That was the so-called evidence used to send him away. No criminal record, no history of gang activity, just ink on his skin, and because of that he now sits imprisoned in El Salvador, his life in ruins. At this point, it's not law enforcement. It's cruelty dressed up as procedure. Congressman Magaziner didn't let this slide. He came to the hearing prepared. He laid out the evidence: a 4-year-old U.S. citizen with cancer deported without consent or hearing, ICE policies ignored, a Supreme Court ruling violated, planes filled with people deported without oversight, and an asylum seeker deported for having tattoos that said Mom and Dad. In each case, when pressed for answers, Noem had none. She deflected. She evaded. She repeated vague phrases about protocols without offering proof. That isn't accountability. That's damage control. What makes this worse is that during her confirmation hearing, Noem promised her department would focus on deporting criminals and people with removal orders. That was her commitment to Congress and the American people. But instead of prioritizing criminals, her department is targeting children with cancer, families whose lawyers are locked out of the room, and asylum seekers who tried to follow the law. Meanwhile, violent offenders fall through the cracks. This isn't about political differences. It isn't simply a debate over immigration policy. It's about a government official failing to follow the law, ignoring the courts, and targeting the most vulnerable people under her authority. When DHS leadership chooses to break its own rules and ignore constitutional protections, it isn't law enforcement anymore. It's negligence. It's abuse of power. and it undermines the very principles the agency is supposed to protect. At the end of the hearing, one thing was undeniable. Kristi Noem didn't have answers, she didn't have evidence, she hadn't reviewed the names of the people her department deported. She had chosen cruelty over compassion, evasion over accountability, and political theater over the lives of human beings. And that forces us to confront a larger question: what kind of country do we want to be? Do we protect children with cancer? Do we honor Supreme Court rulings? Do we give asylum seekers a fair chance when they follow the law, or do we shrug, deport them, and pretend it's justice? This story isn't just about one Secretary of Homeland Security, it's about the soul of the nation. Are we a country that values human life, due process, and constitutional rights, or are we a country where bureaucracy and cruelty outweigh compassion and law? So I'll put the question to you: should Kristi Noem resign? Tell us in the comments. Share this video so others know what's happening, and if you believe in holding leaders accountable, subscribe to this channel and join the conversation, because in the end this isn't just about immigration, it isn't just about politics, it's about who we are, and every American deserves to know the truth.